thank you all for coming. As you all know, I'm Sienna, Cullum, and for the majority of this past year, I've been studying animal intelligence. So my studies have led me to wonder what factors are most influential in the development of animal intelligence and to what degree are human methods able to accurately measure intelligence across species. So I've been studying this through the lens of a comparative analysis of the raven and the octopus. And I chose these two creatures because they're both incredibly intelligent creatures and arguably have a similar level of intelligence, though it's hard to kind of compare them with such different environments. And that's another reason I chose them, because they're on such opposite sides of the environmental and structural spectrum. And before I really get into this, I have a question for you guys. So, humans have existed on Earth for roughly 300,000 years. And if you had to guess, and I'll have you actually guess, how long do you think that we've been studying animal intelligence? Jessica, you can't guess. And for reference, we've been studying human anatomy for roughly 2,300 years. Any guesses?
1,000.
1,000 years.
Okay.
3,000 years.
3,000 years.
5 years.
5 years. Yes, Harlow. You're actually the closest.
10.
We've been studying for 150 years, which is less than 0.5% of the time we've existed as a species. Less than 1%. So, part of this is because we used to believe that complex thinking was limited to humans. In fact, great philosophers used to think that the octopus was like a devilish creature. And we're not sure if that's because of intelligence or because it's strong and looks like an alien. But basically, we then began our animal intelligence studies with monkeys, which, as you can see here, and as you probably already know, are the closest in biological descent to humans. We then continued our studies with some mammals, some vertebrates, and finally a few invertebrates. As we started our studies with vertebrates, our methods for understanding animal intelligence are based off of them. Because of this and the lack of variety of species in our studies, a large amount of animals are often misrepresented, underrepresented, or not represented at all. So the jellyfish and the octopus, most vertebrates are underrepresented or misrepresented, while the monkey and birds are much more commonly and accurately depicted. I keep forgetting I have this clicker. But let's back up for a second. So, life has evolved through thousands, maybe millions of different evolutionary pathways, often leading to creatures developing the same trait. This is called convergent evolution. So though animals may have the same trait, their differing lifestyles and environments are incredibly impactful on their lifestyle. For instance, the raven and the octopus, both very intelligent creatures, but they have entirely different lifestyles and structures, as you can see. Another instance of convergent evolution, which I don't have a picture here, but some of them are like, just around, are birds, bats, butterflies, and even pterodactyls. They all individually developed the ability to fly and have entirely different lifestyles and even sometimes structures of their wings. Okay. So there are a few different ways that we can observe and understand an animal's intelligence, such as cognitive tests, brain scans, and observing and understanding their social patterns. So a few cognitive tests that you guys might be familiar with. One is self-recognition, where you put an animal in front of a mirror, see if it understands that it's themselves, not just another animal. If you did this to a dog, it would know instantly due to smell, whereas a bunny might not. Another example of a cognitive test is something called object permanence, which is the understanding of that an object is permanent, whether it's in their line of sight or out of it. So if you show a dog a tennis ball and then put it under a rug or a blanket, does the dog still understand that the tennis ball is there? Or one of my favorite examples of this is peekaboo. So when you go behind your hands, that's why the baby's so surprised when you reappear, because it didn't know you existed for a brief second of time.
Wow.
Oops. Okay. Throughout my research, research, I have found a few important indications of intelligent creatures. So some things to look for instance, the encephalization quotient, which is a brain scan that ranks an animal's expected brain mass based off of their body weight versus their actual brain mass. Then we have cognitive function, which is essentially a measurement of knowledge and learning that's not limited to the brain. So this can be like emotions and things that are stored in your body and the memory of it, if that makes sense. We can also get incredible intel from an animal's lifestyle, lifespan, and life stages. This can teach us things such as their generational versus individual learnings, and much more. Finally, social transmission frequency, which is the observation of an animal's social tendencies. This shows us their understanding of relationships, social hierarchy, and emotional impact. So, moving on to the encephalization quotient. All these methods are incredibly helpful, but they are far from flawless. For instance, encephalization quotient. This, really quick, is a scale of 1 through 7 or 8, humans ranking at the top. Most animals end up on the scale at 0.1 to 2. The raven and the octopus are slightly higher because they're incredibly intelligent creatures. So the octopus comes in at 2.0 to 2.8, while the raven is a 2.3 to 3. And while this is incredibly helpful to have a numerical rank of animal intelligence, it does not account for neural dispersion. This system, like many others, is based off of vertebrates. Therefore, it favors the raven, a vertebrate, while the soft-bodied octopus is not accounted for. And it's denied the credit for many of its cognitive functions. So while the raven has a brain, as you can see up here, and then it has a spinal cord, similar to humans, the octopus has neurons dispersed through its entire body, with only around a third of them inside of its brain. And it's not just their bodies. A raven has a brain similar to ours, as you can see up here. But this chart is actually inaccurate. And I couldn't find an accurate chart of an octopus's brain due to the lack of study in octopus and other invertebrates, But, fun fact, their brains are actually ring-shaped and it rests around their throat. So another fun thing is if they eat something too large, it can actually give them brain damage. Interesting, huh? Yeah. But besides the point, neural anatomy is incredibly impactful, but it's not always accounted for. A raven is built to fly, therefore it's lightweight and has majority of its neurons in its brain. This makes it incredibly dense, giving it great cognitive function, where an octopus, on the other hand, with great neural dispersion stretching down every single arm, can defy typical restrictions of color, shape, texture, and has developed a pincher grasp with every single sucker. This gives them exceptional strength, grip, and precision. And studies show that they may even be able to see with their skin, which I think is actually crazy, but we're not going to get into that. An animal's lifespan, style, and stages, also incredibly important in understanding an animal's intelligence. The first stage of most animals' life is their parental care period. So as you can see here, there's the little baby ravens with their parent and their eggs and everything like that. A raven has roughly 3 to 4 months of a parental care period, and they are slowly and safely being taught things from their parents, like how to fly, forage, hunt, and even maybe how to make friends, but we don't have hard evidence on that. Then they are juveniles who form their own group, kind of like a pack, but of ravens their age. They are often leaders and possibly even runts in this group, which demonstrates their understanding of social hierarchy. And they have great recognition, but I'm sure you guys know that. They then move on to the mating stage. And once they have found a partner, they mate for life. All of this happens within roughly 15 or 20 years. Octopods, on the other hand, can live a maximum of 3 years. The mother has a varying brooding period depending on the depth and temperature of the water, but basically how it works is after mating, the mother and father decline into senescence, which is a biologically programmed, biologically triggered decline, triggered by a hormonal release in the brain, which is in the optic gland. So that's really interesting. The father, I think, dies after a week or two, but the mother will spend usually a couple of months, again, depending on the depth and temperature of the water. And she's brooding her eggs, which means she will clean them and flip them, and she spends the entire time focusing on that. So she will stay, and she won't eat or go and do anything that she needs to. She spends the entire time focusing on her eggs until death. And then the baby octopods hatch, and they must survive on their own, as their parents are now dead. As you can tell if you have seen my octopus teacher. Octopods are very antisocial creatures. They don't hang out with their siblings or friends. They're very scared, little shy creatures. So they must learn everything by themselves. While a raven demonstrates incredible phylogeny through generational learning from their parents and other ravens in their groups, octopods have incredible ontogeny, as they learn everything themselves in a singular lifetime. So humans are the species with the highest phylogenetic rate, with 300,000 years of accumulated generational knowledge. One of my favorite revolutions across the human timeline was Copernicus's revolution. This image was much less blurry on my screen, but Copernicus's revolution that the universe does not revolve around us. I believe that we are at the beginning of a similar revolution, now that we are finally paying attention to the other inhabitants of this planet. So now that you understand that the entire animal intelligence system is based off of vertebrates, I'm going to have you guys guess again, so start thinking. I want you to guess what % of animals vertebrates make up. Except for you, Jessica.
75%.
Okay.
10.
10%.
Ah, you took mine.
Kyle, you're really close. It's 3%. 3% we are based off the entire system for ranking animal intelligence. With invertebrates, some examples over here making up the other 97% of animals. Humans can now cure most diseases, generate information instantaneously with AI, and have just gone the farthest recorded distance into space. Yet, Yet we have explored less than 20% of the ocean and explored less than 3% of animals on our planet. So I ask that you look to the future and you encourage growth and remember to expand your lens, even if you aren't able to widen your perspective and help advocate for the others with no voice. I ask that you at least take away that the plural of octopus is not octopi. It's octopods or octopuses. Thank you very much. Any questions? Oh, good. Avery?
This is more of an anatomy question.
Yeah.
But what is in the bulbous part of an octopus's head?
That's a really good question.
Is it just like vital organs, or?
Yeah, so everyone actually thinks that their head is just their big brain, and that's why they're so smart. But their head, like here, that's actually their entire body, other than the arms. It has all of their vital organs, and it has a siphon, which is like a little tube that can shoot water and let them jet through the sea and stuff. And then their brain is kind of like right there around their throat, because their beak is it's hidden in these photos. But Lene?
I'm curious, Sienna, you sort of answered this at the very last slide about opening our thought process
Yes.
on this, but for you personally, why is it important that we understand a level of intelligence about a bird or an octopus? Why is that specific? We know that it's important that the ocean thrive.
Yes.
We know that they air, and we understand all the basics, but for you, Why is it important that we as humans understand why their intelligence levels?
That's a great question. I think it's really important because, like, for the past 300,000 years, we've spent the whole time focusing on one species on this planet. And I think that that's just a really limited perspective. And we're honestly probably missing so much information about not just our planet, but ourselves as creatures, and the way that evolution works, and like so many things we're able to learn from this, like how an octopus is able to evolve so much, even though it has absolutely no generational learning. Like, how does that even work?
That's a really interesting thing.
It's really
Yeah, you're right.
interesting. I hope that answered your
It did.
question.
Can I
Yeah.
push it a little further?
Yeah. Can
Why
I grab my
is-
water?
Yeah, please. Oh, I also forgot to stop the tape again. We don't usually tape the Q&A. I'm real bad at this. Oh, yay.